That's why I have you on here. I want to learn from you guys about how to be a better reviewer. You guys have been doing this for a long time.
I think you've already got that figured out, but I think it's so simple. It's just that it takes a lot of it's a lot of work. And to me, the gold standard has always been measurements plus blind testing. And once you've got that, what else do you need? You need some dude to tell a amusing story or something, but
Sure. Yeah.
that's the gold standard, and that's what all the good research has been done that way. And I don't think the problem is, as I think all know, measurement's hard, and it's hard, and it's often expensive. Not always, but often expensive. And anyone who's done a lot of measurement has spent, I guarantee you, the sort of mark of someone who's done a lot of measurement, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I've done measurements," but until you've spent probably at least 10 nights being up past midnight trying to figure out how to get your stupid analyzer to work. And Aaron, I haven't used a Klippel, but I'm just going to take a wild guess and say they're not immune to that.
No, even before then.
It's really difficult to do, and there's not a lot of literature about how to do measurements. And so you ask people, you ask manufacturers, you try to find something about it. You look at the very few reference books that are on it, and that part's hard enough. And then if you're going to do blind testing, well, you got to have the right switchers and things like that to do it. And then you got to get people in to do it. And sometimes those people are not going to be attentive and not going to care too much. And sometimes they will. And I'm lucky because I go up to Vancouver, where there's a great vintage audio store there called Innovative Audio. And I'm like an hour and a half south of Vancouver. And I'll take stuff up there to do blind tests, and they like clear out a room for me, and we set it all up, and I bring my black drapes and my thin black fabric thing with the photo thing and all that. And I have all the switchers, either ones that I've bought or built myself. And I can set up to do a test. And since those guys are hardcore audio people, I don't have to explain to them what to do. I can just be like, hey, we're going to listen to some Bluetooth speakers, in 3 groups, cheap ones, mid-price ones, and high-price ones. And then, we'll run through those, and you'll tell me what you think. But it takes time. It takes like a whole day for me to go up there and set the test up and run the test. And then I got to write it up. And so this stuff is hard. Reviewing where you just get the product in and just mess around with it, you're never going to be especially great, probably. And, you're only
that's it. I quit.
Pertinent to you.
I quit.
Well, I know, but you can incorporate. It's not like you have to all of a sudden become the, Canadian NRC in
or
your
the Klippel measuring guy,
right? Or the Klippel measuring guy, or anything like that. You take small steps to do it. Like if you do subwoofers, you can do CEA 2010, like for like $100 or something, and you can do it in your backyard, and really like just as well as anything else can do it. And for things like for blind testing, you can. There isn't a good cheap switcher. There should be. If someone commercialized my switcher, it would cost like $100 or less. Mm-hmm. And the parts, it's just 4 op amps and a circuit board and 8 pots and some jacks and a couple little things. It's not hard, but I should probably make plans for it or something. It's just, this stuff is easy if you kind of have read a couple old Radio Shack, like how to make circuits manuals.
Does it count if you dream about measuring? I mean, if you do this a lot, it's weird. It starts getting to like
mirrors.
I seriously like dream about like,
oh yeah.
I'm like, why am I dreaming about that? That's such a weird thing to be thinking about.
Well, I dreamed about chess when I was a chess player,
Yeah, it's so random. And as far as like blind testing, I met you at CES. Remember, Chana? We were at the Sound United room.
I remember it very well. Yeah.
Paul was like, "Hey, that's Brent Butterworth right there." I'm like, "Oh,
He's
cool. Let me get
whispering,
his card or something, right?" And then I'm like, "Oh, this dude lives kind of close to me." So I messaged you, and you invited me over to check out some headphones that you were reviewing.
We tested headphones for Soundstage.
Yeah. Well, you were reviewing it for Wirecutter, I think.
Was it Wirecutter?
Yeah.
No, I'm not the. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Man,
Because
Joe's like, no, it was. I
looking
remember
for the Wirecutter article, and then you mentioned me, and I'm like, "Oh, cool, I'm in Wirecutter." And so you had me just check out the headphones and listen to some stuff, and I was kind of like, well, my assessment wasn't that great, because I'm not used to reviewing headphones. So like some of the differences, it's just weird.
No well-adjusted person is used to, reviewing headphones.
Yeah, so I was saying some stuff where I looked at the measurement after. I'm like, oh man, I was kind of off, but whatever. Like it's all good.
No, you're not off. But you're an audio enthusiast. Your opinions are valid, and headphones. It's blind testing with headphones is really. It's the whole process is very dicey. You just have to kind of put them on and hope people don't get too distracted by the brand name. Yeah. But it's and level matching with headphones is really hard. And but even so, just getting other people's opinions, even if it's not a blind test, getting other people's opinions is really just incredibly useful. And especially it's not. I mean, I do blind tests of sound bars, and all I do. Since you can't level match sound bars accurately, because they all have kind of different processing and they all do different things with a surround sound signal, right? They've all got different speaker arrays, and they do their own little editorial on like where they think the speaker should blast out to sound good. And so, but I just do them with my neighbors, and because I can't haul them up to. It's too hard to set them up, but I do it with my neighbors, and I put my thin black fabric, and you get like the, like right behind me, there's like a photo, like what you put seamless paper on. Mm-hmm. You can buy those off of Amazon for like nothing, like the stands, and you just get some really thin black fabric and drape it, and bam. And I level match as best I can with sound bars, and I run a few pieces of material and see what my neighbors think, because I think your neighbors are like the kind of people that buy sound bars, right? I mean, Dennis Berger doesn't buy a sound bar.
No, he doesn't.
Not that he's ever told me. So I think it's really valid to do that. And so you can take baby steps into this as much as you want. It's really a matter of, to me, it's a matter of like if you're trying. I mean, if you're not doing any of this stuff, and maybe you don't even have to do it all the time, but you should have been through some blind. I mean, if you're going to talk about amplifiers, you should go through some blind tests of amplifiers and just see how you do an ABX test and see how you do. And that will make you more humble.
I remember you mentioned me one time in one of your previous podcasts. You're like, and Joey Mariano, he's trying to be a serious reviewer. Like he's trying. And I thought that was a nice compliment, because I really.
Did I say trying? I mean, I think you are. You are.
I think that's perfect though, because I try my best. Like I don't have all the tools, and I don't want to spend the most amount of time doing every single thing. I try to balance. Okay, I'm going to provide some measurements. I'm going to talk about some of the features, because that's also important. I'm trying to balance things out, and maybe I'm going to talk about the price, because price performance ratio also matters. And I try to, my background's in sales, so I try to think, who would this maybe work for, and try to kind of explain it. Like might be okay if this is what you're into.
Well, that's the right approach.
Objectively, this is.
I think what Brent was saying is you put in the effort, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you heard him. You heard him say he's trying, but I think what he was saying is you put in the effort. You actually do the work. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Shauna, I know you said like, I don't do the measurements, but I've seen other audio reviewers. I think it was Caleb, where he doesn't talk about the measurements, but I kind of have a feeling I think he does the measurements behind the scenes. He never mentions it, but he's like spot on a lot of stuff. So I'm like, I bet he did a quick, measurement just to make sure that what he's saying is true, and that is a different way. Like maybe you don't show it, but at least what you're saying is
right.
Well,
I
also,
don't do measurements, but I don't review a lot of transducers, so
I think to have gone through the process, and especially like with subwoofers in CTA 2010, I should say.
Mhm.
Once you see that measurement done, and I'm actually going to do a video on this pretty soon, I think. Once you see how that measurement's done, and you understand how it correlates, and you can maybe hear the difference with the subwoofer that has high distortion at low frequency and one that doesn't. It just snaps. So I have a story about that, actually. So Howard Rogers, the guy from Rogers Sound, I used to live in LA, and he was like not far from me. And so I reviewed one of his systems for sound and vision. This is way back when they were just getting started again. And because it's a brand that goes back to like the 70s or 80s. And so I published the CEA 2010 measurements in Soundstage, and his sub did okay. But that was the one he had before. But then he called me up. He's like, what is all this stuff? What I've never heard of this before. And granted, at the time, hardly anybody was doing that measurement. And I said, well, if you want to come over to my house and check it out, come on over. And, next time I'm doing some subwoofers, I'll just show you how it works. And boy, I mean, he saw that. It took him not 10 seconds to be like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is so great. And, I ended up doing a lot of measurements for him. Wow. And then I ended up I had to quit doing it because I went to work for Wirecutter, but I still just did him for free. He'd bring me a cup of coffee or whatever. But it was fun because I did some of his prototypes for him.
All right, everybody. We do the Daily HiFi podcast every Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you join up to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Daily HiFi, and we will see you there for the big show every Monday. Yeah.